it. Not bad, she thought, for 38 years old. "It must be the middle of the night back there," Jenny said when at last she came to the phone. "We've discovered a discrepancy in the BSL-4 log," Toni explained. Jenny was a little drunk. "That's happened before," she said carelessly, "but no one's ever made, like, a great big drama over it." "That's because I wasn't working here," Toni said crisply. "When was the last time you entered BSL-4? Tuesday, I think. Won't the computer tell you that?" It would, but Toni wanted to know whether Jenny's story would match the computer record. "And when was the last time you accessed the vault?" The vault was a locked refrigerator within BSL-4. Jenny's tone was becoming surly. "I really don't remember, but it will be on video." The touchpad combination lock on the vault activated a security camera that rolled the entire time the door was open. "Do you recall the last time you used Madoba 2? This was the virus the scientists were working on right now. Jenny was shocked. "Bloody hell, is that what's gone missing?" "No, it's not. All the same, I don't think I've ever handled an actual virus. I mostly work in the tissue culture lab." That agreed with the information Toni had. "Have you noticed any of your colleagues behaving in a way that was strange or out of character in the last few weeks?" "This is like the sodding Gestapo," Jenny said. "Be that as it may, have you—" "No, I have not." "Just one more question. Is your temperature normal?" "Fuck me! Are you saying I might have Madoba too?" "Have you got a cold or fever?" "No." "Then you're all right. You left the country 11 days ago. By now you would have flu-like symptoms if anything were wrong." "Thank you, Jenny. It's probably just an error in the log, but we have to make sure." "Well, you spoiled my night." Jenny hung up. "Shame," Toni said to the dead phone. She cradled the receiver and said, "Jenny Crawford checks out. A cow, but straight." The laboratory director was Howard McAlpine. His bushy grey beard grew high on his cheekbones so that the skin around his eyes looked like a pink mask. He was meticulous without being prissy, and Toni normally enjoyed working with him, but now he was bad-tempered. He leaned back in his chair and clasped his hands behind his head. "The overwhelming likelihood is that the material unaccounted for was used perfectly legitimately by someone who simply forgot to make entries in the log." His tone of voice was testy. He had said this twice before. "I hope you're right," Toni said noncommittally. She got up and went to the window. The personnel office overlooked the extension that housed the BSL-4 laboratory. The new building seemed similar to the rest of the Kremlin, with barley sugar chimneys and a clock tower, so that it would be difficult for an outsider to guess, from a distance, where in the complex the high-security lab was located. But its arched windows were opaque, the carved oak doors could not be opened, and closed-circuit television cameras gazed one-eyed from the monstrous heads of the gargoyles. It was a concrete blockhouse in Victorian disguise. The new building was on 3 levels. The labs were on the ground floor. As well as research space and storage, there was an intensive care medical isolation facility for anyone who became infected with a dangerous virus. It had never been used. On the floor above was the air handling equipment. Below, elaborate machinery sterilized all waste coming from the building. Nothing left the place alive, except human beings. "We've learned a lot from this exercise," Toni said in a placatory tone. She was in a delicate position, she thought anxiously. The 2 men were senior to her in rank and age. Both were in their 50s. Although she had no right to give them orders, she had insisted they treat the discrepancy as a crisis. They both liked her, but she was stretching their goodwill to the limit. Still, she felt she had to push it. At stake were public safety, the company's reputation, and her career. In future, we must always have live phone numbers for everyone who has access to BSL-4, wherever in the world they might be, so that we can reach them quickly in an emergency. And we need to audit the log more than once a year. McAlpine grunted. As lab director, he was responsible for the log, and the real reason for his mood was that he should have discovered the discrepancy himself. Toni's efficiency made him look bad. She turned to the other man, who was the Director of Human Resources. "How far down your list are we, James?" James Elliot looked up from his computer screen. He dressed like a stockbroker, in a pinstriped suit and spotted tie, as if to distinguish himself from the tweedy scientists. He seemed to regard the safety rules as tiresome bureaucracy, perhaps because he never worked hands-on with viruses. Toni found him pompous and silly. "We've spoken to all but one of the 27 staff that have access to BSL-4, he said. He spoke with exaggerated precision, like a tired teacher explaining something to the dullest pupil in the class. "All of them told the truth about when they last entered the lab and opened the vault. None has noticed a colleague behaving strangely, and no one has a fever." "Who's the missing one?" "Michael Ross, a lab technician." "I know Michael," Toni said. He was a shy, clever man, about 10 years younger than Toni. "In fact, I've been to his home. He lives in a cottage about 15 miles from here." "He's worked for the company for 8 years without a blemish on his record." McAlpine ran his finger down a printout and said, "He last entered the lab 3 Sundays ago for a routine check on the animals." "What's he been doing since?" "Holiday." "For how long? 3 weeks?" Elliot put in, "He was due back today." He looked at his watch. "Yesterday, I should say. Monday morning, but he didn't show up." "Did he call in sick?" "No." Toni raised her eyebrows. "And we can't reach him?" "No answer from his home phone or his mobile." "Doesn't that strike you as odd?" "That a single young man should extend his vacation without forewarning his employer. About as odd as rain in Glencoe." Toni turned back to McAlpine. "But you say Michael has a good record." The lab director looked worried. "He's very conscientious. It's surprising that he should take unauthorized leave." Toni asked, "Who was with Michael when he last entered the lab?" She knew he must have been accompanied, for there was a 2-person rule in BSL-4. Because of the danger, no one could work there alone. McAlpine consulted his list. "Dr. Ansari, a biochemist." "I don't think I know him." "Her. It's a woman, Monica." Toni picked up the phone. "What's her number?" Monica Ansari spoke with an Edinburgh accent and sounded as if she had been fast asleep. "Howard McAlpine called me earlier, you know." "I'm sorry to trouble you again." "Has something happened?" "It's about Michael Ross. We can't track him down. I believe you were in BSL-4 with him 2 weeks ago last Sunday." "Yes. Just a minute. Let me put the light on." There was a pause. "God, is that the time?" Toni pressed on. "Michael went on holiday the next day." "He told me he was going to see his mother in Devon." That rang a bell. Toni recalled the reason she had gone to Michael Ross's house. About 6 months ago she had mentioned, in a casual conversation in the canteen, how much she liked Rembrandt's pictures of old women, with every crease and wrinkle lovingly detailed. You could tell, she had said, how much Rembrandt must have loved his mother. Michael had lit up with enthusiasm and revealed that he had copies of several Rembrandt etchings cut out of magazines and auction house catalogues. She went home with him after work to see the pictures, all of old women, tastefully framed and covering one wall of his small living room. She worried that he was going to ask her for a date. She liked him, but not that way. But to her relief, he genuinely wanted only to show off his collection. He was, she had concluded, a mother's boy. "That's helpful," Toni said to Monica. "Just hold on." She turned to James Elliot. Do we have his mother's contact details on file?